Hi, I'm Representative Al Baldessaro, and we're back with my co-host, Janine Notter, representative from Merrimack, and this is Who's Looking Out for You.
Hey, Al.
How we doing again?
I'm good.
You know,
Gosh, I feel like I haven't talked to you in 5 minutes.
You ain't kidding, I tell you. We had a great show. Normally, so the people know, we do 2 shows. Normally.
Sometimes 3.
Sometimes 3.
Yep.
You know, trying to get the message out to the people. In the last show, we talked about you running in pain to the body
And
or
I'm
whatever.
still at
And you're still-
1,153 miles for the year.
God bless
And my
you, dear.
fastest mile ever was 7 minutes and 57 seconds.
Pain is weakness leaving the body. I love it.
Yeah, oh boy, I had
I
pain,
can't-
but it wasn't leaving the body till I
can't-
stopped running.
yeah, I can't run anymore. But anyways, you know, we just come back from D.C.
Yes.
And it was a great time. And we have a special guest here, State Representative. You want to introduce her?
Yes, she's my very good friend,
Yeah.
Representative Victoria Sullivan, who I think looks like that girl.
Welcome to Londonderry.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Welcome, Thanks,
Marlo
Janine.
Thomas.
Good
I
to
mean,
see you.
yeah, Marlo Thomas. Yeah,
Good to see you
And
both.
she's-
We
you're-
toured the monuments together.
We
that's
did.
awesome.
She,
And 2 good-looking boys there. What disciplined little guys you have.
thank
How old
you
are
very
they?
much. They're 11 and 13.
11, 13. Yep.
And
Yeah,
they're
love
not,
your
you know,
kids.
they are boys. They're spirited boys, so they're not always
Oh,
well
I
disciplined.
have 4
but they know
sons.
when to step it up, I
I
think.
have 4 sons, believe me, and I have 3 daughters.
5 boys.
Yeah, so we understand. Believe
There
me.
are oftentimes I find them by looking
Yeah.
up, you know, into the heavens
Yes, they
and the
did
trees.
some
and-
climbing.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, you're a state representative from Manchester.
I am.
Tell us a little bit about yourself first. How many terms? And
I serve Hillsborough District 16, which is Manchester Ward 9. I live on the south side. Prior to being a state rep, I was a PTA mom. I was PTA president for a while, and I ran the drama club at my son's elementary school for 7 years. This is the first year I won't be because they've both left elementary school. Completely volunteer. And I was very frustrated with how things were going in education, so I decided to put my name on the ballot, and lo and behold, I won. So this will be my 3rd term that I'm seeking election for. And I serve in the House Education Committee, and I've loved every minute of it, even the tough days. And I've made such good friends like you guys up there. And
well, you know, I was
great.
honored to help you on 2 of your bills, and one I co-sponsored with you. And let's talk about first the education one.
Okay.
The kindergarten. Tell us a little bit about that bill.
So I had the play-based kindergarten bill. So last year, when we had kindergarten being funded as a full-day program through, they would call it kindergarten.
Kindergarten, yes.
I was very concerned because I knew that the rigors of kindergarten had really increased since the Common Core standards came forward, and I knew about the stressors for the kids in the classrooms and the teachers and the parents. This wasn't the kindergarten that we grew up with, right? The expectations were so much higher, and with a full-day program, it was just relentless. These kids weren't getting a break, and a lot of teachers thought when they went to full day, they would have more time to reintegrate the play and the creativity and socialization, and that's just not what happened. The standards were also increased. So as part of that bill, I tried to get an amendment that allowed for half-day option for parents that wanted it. So your school would offer the full day, but you could put your child in for half-day and work up to the full day before they got to
Right.
first grade. I also tried to make it so there would be a play-based model. Well, I got half of that the first year. Parents have the option of having a half-day
Right,
program.
which we have that now.
If they
Right.
they may not be aware that they can opt in for only a half day, but their principal and their superintendent have to honor that. So this year, Lynn Ober came to me and she said,
Representative from Hudson.
yeah, why don't you put that bill back in, and we'll meet with the commissioner and see if you can have that as a standalone bill for play-based. And I was actually a little bit reluctant because I got really beat up for for my stance on kindergarten.
She's been abused by the other
Oh,
party,
yeah, you ain't kidding.
unbelievably so.
I mean, I was told I was too stupid to be on education. Of course, kindergarten was play-based. I mean, these people they were absolutely brutal.
A mother of 2 active boys. They had no clue. And I agree with you.
Yeah,
I
no,
had
how
boys.
could you possibly know anything about kids?
Yeah, 7
Well,
kids.
right?
How would I know as a father?
And
Yeah.
I watched it change from my first child was in kindergarten, and they're 2 years apart, to when the second child was in kindergarten. I watched the shift. I volunteered in the classroom. I listened to the teachers. I knew of the strain. I listened to the principal, and I knew of the strain on them. So I wasn't coming out of left field. Like I knew what was going on. But anyway, sometimes you get beat up. You have to
Right,
take
yeah.
your legs and recover.
Yeah.
And
we
I
all get
sat
'em.
down with the commissioner, and he was supportive of it. And so I said, all right, let's try it again. And a bill that failed last year that I was really beat up for passed the House my committee unanimously.
Nice.
And that's the
Said
education
bipartisan
committee.
support.
Yeah. And that was actually a pretty emotional vote, unexpectedly for everybody in the room. I think people by that point realized how important this was and how much things had changed. And how much it was going to affect the other grades, like for preschool and first and second grade, it was going to make it more playful for them too. And then we got it to the House, and it should have been on consent, which just means that it's on the calendar that everyone votes at once for it. But somebody pulled it off because they didn't like the bill.
Do you remember who that was?
Oh yeah, it was Brian Stone, Representative Brian
Oh,
Stone.
Jesus. Okay.
He didn't like it.
He
but
don't like anything, Brian Stone.
the positive part of that,
God's gift to the United States. I don't care. Okay, go ahead.
the positive side of that was I got to fight it on the I had the opportunity to present it on the
yeah.
floor. I had Mary Guile, who's a representative,
Sits in front of me.
who is a child advocate. She
Right.
really is. She's involved in early childhood education, who was able to speak on the floor to it. And because he pulled it, I really think we were able to, on the floor, get more support. So we passed it 328-8.
Right, that was
Which is a
awesome.
very strong
For
message to
the,
send
you know,
to
for the
Senate.
people watching this, that bill was House Bill 1499.
Yes.
In case they wanted to pull up the, and make sure that Londonderry, which Londonderry is great schools, that they're complying in the kindergarten with this law. And it's in effect right now,
It
right
is.
for September.
Yes,
You
and
know.
right now I've been working with the Commissioner of Education, Frank Edelblue, and the Deputy Commissioner of Education, Christine Brennan, who is from Manchester. She was a former Manchester student and teacher and administrator there. And they've been working very hard to try to get the word out to the teachers because it was signed into law, I think, in June. So
Right.
getting the word out and getting some teacher development going was difficult.
Yeah, talking about getting beat up, Edelblue, boy, every time he turns around, somebody's attacking
Oh,
him.
you ain't
and he's
kidding,
doing a
and it's a
fabulous
shame.
job.
He's doing a great job,
You
but
know-
you've got people like Bill Duncan who are just so engrossed.
Is he
in,
still on that board?
No, he
They
isn't.
got
And
rid
since
of
he
him.
left the board, he's
Right.
even been worse. He's the reason that we have Common Core state
Right.
standards. Him, Virginia Berry, Tom Raffio, when they came to a meeting in Manchester at the school board, and some of the parents were saying, you know, we've read the standards for the younger grades and they're not appropriate. They're not developmentally appropriate. Tom Raffio actually said that we were crazy. He said that at a school board meeting. Virginia Berry said parents had no place trying to help their children with their education. They should leave
What
it
a
up to the
shame.
teacher. She said at a public meeting. So now you've got a Commissioner of Education who is speaking with all of the stakeholders.
right.
He's
Believes
bringing
in
in
choice.
parents. He's bringing in teachers. He's bringing in administrators. He's talking to the kids.
Right.
And he's bringing everybody together, and they cannot stand the amount of control that they're losing. And I really think that that is what this is about. He's doing the right things, but he's undoing a lot of the
socialism
stronghold and the
that's-
power
yeah.
that they
And
were
he
able to
believes
take.
in local control, which
He
is a beautiful
does.
thing. And you know,
Beyond that, he believes in parental control. He believes that parents are partners in education
That
and
the
should have a
children
voice.
actually belong to the parents and not the state?
right, yeah.
Whoa.
You know, I have 7 kids, and every one of them have a different way of learning.
Everyone.
One size does not fit all.
Right.
And you have 5 boys.
I have 5
God
boys, and
bless
I
you.
do have a daughter,
I have
too.
4
Yeah.
sons and 3 daughters, and you 2 boys.
They're very
and
different.
They're very different when it comes to education.
And I wish we had charter schools when my oldest was
I know, me
younger.
too.
He would have thrived in a charter school.
Well, I thought that bill, I was awesome to be part of it, and I know you were part of it. And, you know, it was a great honor because you did the right thing for parents now to get them
Thank
more
you.
involved and making sure kids are just not thrown right into a school environment and sitting at a desk for, 5, 6, 7, whatever hours.
Yeah, and I think the biggest part, I've been going through videos, and we're trying to, Christine Brennan has set up 2 trainings for teachers next week through the New Hampshire Department of Education on Monday and Friday. And she has some consultants coming in, and she's setting up some play-based activities with children too, so they can videotape it and get it out there. But through the videotapes that I have been watching to try to share with her, and then she's sharing with other people with the digital age, luckily we can get things out to people a lot quicker than having to sit down in a room together. The biggest difference, I think, is going to be for the teachers and administrators as far as how the room sounds and feels.
Right.
Because it's
Thunderstorm
hear the thunder?
outside.
I brought it with me. The classrooms for kindergarten have been set up mainly in groups, right? So they sit in these little groups and they face each other usually, and they do work together. Well, in these videos that I've been seeing about other countries that use the play-based model, which is basically what we grew up with, there's just a lot more activity and chatter in the room. So the principals have to get rid of the idea that if they walk into a classroom and the kids aren't sitting quietly, the teacher is failing. That means the teacher is doing the right thing.
Right.
And it's student-led. So they have areas set up. There might be something with water or something with blocks or something, that they're doing. And the kids will start playing and communicating with each other. And in one of them, they were experimenting with water to see how it reacted to different vessels that it was put in, how it poured out, quicker, slower. In another one, they were building with blocks. They decided together to do a bridge. And the teacher had a picture of the Eiffel Tower in the room, so they decided to try to have it look like the Eiffel Tower. And they were communicating with each other about how to do this. And the teacher would just come over and say, well, why did you make that choice? Why did you choose that block? And they would communicate with her why they made these choices, whose idea it was. So she's working with them on language skills, building skills, communication, socialization, which is a huge part of what we're missing. And I really think that if we get this back, we're going to see a lot less of the bullying instances.
Right.
We're going to see a lot less behavioral issues in the classrooms.
Are they taking naps in kindergarten?
No, a full day kindergarten, and they don't take naps now.
Did you take a nap in kindergarten?
No.
I had half day.
Yeah.
Both my boys also had half
Now,
day.
one of my
I am
sons
a fan of half day.
one of my sons had full day. I think it was in Delaware, and they took a nap. They did, which I would rather be out playing, out running.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
because I
they're
remember
active.
getting in trouble for
Yeah.
having they lay down and go to sleep,
In,
and
Ca-
I'd be
in
my eyes
California,
wide open.
where I was
That's
stationed
where I
at,
was, California.
if you have a son you have a kid that's active, they want to put him on Ritalin. That's the first thing.
That's
Yep.
I refused. I
problem,
said, "You're
too.
not putting my son on Ritalin. My son's got a
Put him
four-year
outside,
degree
have him
today."
run. That's what you do with the dog.
That's right.
Get the dog tired, but get the kids tired.
And
Send
that's
them out to
another
run.
component of this. They need to have more outdoor activity.
Right.
So it's suggested that they have 45 minutes in a full day.
That's
Not all
awesome.
together necessarily, but 20 minutes there, 25 minutes there. So they're actually outside, not only exercising and getting some fresh air, but getting into dirt and rocks and sticks
right.
and doing things that
kids
kids
do.
do.
Right.
Finding caterpillars.
Right.
We keep them locked inside and give them 10 minutes a day. And then they complain about obesity. Well, we're training our kids to be sedentary. We're training them to sit still for 6.5 hours a day. And then you know what it's like when we're at the State House and we have to sit in session all day.
yeah.
Oh, it's
I see you get
I
up and
can't-
down
I
all the
stand
time.
up,
He's gotta-
I
he's in
stand
pain.
constantly.
But when you get home, you're exhausted from doing nothing. But if
Yeah.
that commercial body in motion stays in motion. But
Right.
if you teach them to get up every once in a while and move around, so we're
Well,
really
I know
hoping.
when the Fitbit yells at me and says, "Get up! You have 106 steps left this hour." I'm like,
And
you
just
don't know how many
some
times
kids are just, like
That's right.
the nap time. I have one of my sons, Seamus. He's always been a great sleeper, and we'd be in the car. He'd say, "Go to sleep," and he'd be out like a light. My other son, nap time was just I gave up because he would not. Napping was torture for me,
Right.
Because I couldn't get him to nap and go to sleep. But when the other child comes along, you want that nap time.
I know. You wish. Well, that's when you start drinking coffee. But I made it to 4 kids before I started drinking coffee, and now I need an IV drip of coffee.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I think the parents are going to really appreciate this law now and make a big difference to the
The
kids.
teachers, I have had so much outpouring from teachers who were afraid to sort of speak out before, but knowing that they had the support of the commissioner, I think, and the deputy commissioner, and the law behind them, they're emailing me saying how grateful they are for this. And their only concern is please make sure our administrators know, because we need to reduce the expectations on these kids and make sure that they know that.
Well,
does a great job.
there was something else that I wanted to bring up here because I know we got about 14 minutes to go. And the bill that was so near and dear to my heart because I seen, what happens. I've been overseas. I've been in, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, all these other countries, was HB 1739.
Yeah.
And that was the act prohibiting female genital mutilation.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up.
And what most people have no clue. Can you explain? Because I was supposed to be on that bill, and I don't
Yeah,
know what
I was
happened.
too.
So I
I
can
was-
explain what
Yeah,
happened.
but anyways, explain for what is that bill? HB 1739.
So
people
HB
know.
1739 actually makes female genital mutilation a criminal offense. The Senate actually reinforced it by making it a reportable offense. So if a girl goes to the doctor and it's seen, the doctor has to report it as abuse. So I had put in the bill, but as things go, there's 400 of us putting in bills, and someone just beat me to it. So they actually wouldn't accept my bill. I had to ask the other sponsor if I could go on her bill. So at the deadline, we have these deadlines where we
Right.
submit bills, or at the very last day, she pulled her bill, and it was very close to not ever happening. So I had to scramble, sort of. David Testerman actually stepped in and said, if it has to be saved, I'll put my name on it, which was very brave, I think, for a man
Yeah.
to step
Right.
up. And I said, well, I'd already put in the bill. I just want them to, put my bill back in. But because she didn't withdraw the bill, just her name and her support, it got kind of fuzzy. But we saved it at the last minute. I got my name on it as sponsor. But the other side of the aisle had members on there that were filling up all these spots for
so that we couldn't get our
co-sponsors.
names on there.
And then on the deadline, they pulled all their names. So it really looked like the bill had no support.
Oh, and it did. But it had support.
But when we went to the hearing, that room was filled
Oh,
with
yes.
support. There was
Oh,
no
and
doubt
we
about it.
met women who had this happen to
Yeah.
them.
Right.
And I read a book about it, so I was familiar with it, and I know that they just strap these girls down. They don't have
Yeah.
a choice, and they.
Nope. And so,
no.
so that people often ask the difference between male circumcision and female
Oh, there's a
genital
huge
mutilation.
difference.
And there's so much
Yeah,
information
we've gotten
out
into
there.
a couple of arguments with our colleagues on with this.
But
yeah.
and people tried to bring in the religious aspect of it, and that's
Well,
I
it's a
think
cultural.
where
Right,
Maine
yeah,
failed
cultural.
twice on this is they get caught up in that. This predates any organized religion. It's a cultural thing, and there is absolutely no medical reason for it. With male circumcision, there are reasons to have it.
It's to do
I've
with the
known.
woman. She gets no
Yeah.
enjoyment from intercourse, nothing. They don't feel anything, and they're left with a. I had to look it up because I couldn't picture it. They're left with a scar and just a little hole. It's all for him. Nothing for her.
Well, and the Mayo Clinic spelled it out pretty well about the reasons that men would have to have a male circumcision. There are infections, there are risks of cancer, there are other
Absolutely.
things that they actually do. There's not ever a health reason or a medical reason for female genital mutilation, ever. And it basically is just so that the woman will remain pure and only be with the husband that is often chosen by her family, not even of her choice. Intercourse is never enjoyable because it's always painful. They have trouble urinating for the rest of their lives, and they get this done when they're children, very small children. It's done in unsterile environments. There's no anesthesia. It's usually done by somebody in their
Wow.
community
Their
with
grandmother.
a blade
I
or a
couldn't
razor
believe
blade
that.
or
I think
something.
it was 2 women that came in. That was it, 2,
Yeah, oh, and
right?
they
Cotty,
were so
oh,
Yeah,
my
great.
God.
They
the
were so
story
grateful
they
to
told
live
about
with
what
it.
happened to them.
Women die during childbirth
Yeah.
because they actually close the vaginal opening. So women have babies that can't be born. The babies die. Women die. Women
Well,
die
they
during
can
intercourse.
they can cut the woman and get the
It's-
baby out, and
Really horrible. It's really it's a life sentence.
How
of
many states have put
misery.
that in? Do you know?
We were the 26th state, I
I
think.
mean, it's a shame we had to put a law in like that there.
It is, but I'll tell you the main because it is illegal on the federal level. There are federal laws against it. However, no one's here in New Hampshire taking care of that. But the biggest bonus to this, the biggest reason we needed to do this was because the women who are in those cultures where they are subservient to men are not, they're afraid to stand up for their daughters because their daughters will be looked at as unclean, impure. These are the things, and they're afraid of the men. So by putting the law behind it, they can now say, our daughter could be taken away if I do this. If they find out,
Right.
we could lose our immigration status. So there is a lot of power. Sometimes we have laws without bite.
Right.
There's a lot of bite in this.
Right,
There's a
which
lot
is
of
good.
power
I think
behind
it
these
was
women
awesome.
now to help them stand up and
Yeah.
protect their little girls.
I thought it was a great bill because I only heard this when I was overseas. I never ever in a million years thought it was going on in our
and
country.
It is.
It is.
And I was shocked at it. That's why I wanted and why I went and testified and spoke and had other people. You had a great team in there. You put it
I really
awesome
did.
together.
And people
know?
came out like Ann, I don't know if you know Ann Smith. She
Yeah.
came out. This was something that she had worked on in years past as a lobbyist, but now she did it on her own time. And people, the AHA Foundation, different organizations that
Right.
fight this on the national level followed the bill, and they sent us help. They sent us resources. And they spoke at the hearings, and they helped us get witnesses. And it was amazing the amount of support behind this. And I was just very glad. I knew early on that the governor was going to sign it once it got passed. Passed unanimously through committee, through the House, through the Senate. Judiciary Committee, Senate Judiciary Committee actually put more teeth in it by making it a reportable offense. And New Hampshire sent a really strong sound,
That was
unified
awesome.
message that this isn't
Senator
going to be
Sharon
tolerated
Carson
here.
was involved with
Yes,
that
she
too,
was
right?
very
She
much.
was the chairman of the
She
committee.
was the
Yep.
chair,
Yep.
and she really pushed
She really
to
did.
make sure that bill was taken
Yep,
care of.
and the
yeah.
governor signed it, and we've got the
Mm-hmm.
governor of Maine who's very upset that they couldn't get the legislation through, and he thinks it's an abomination that they could not get this passed.
We may have to go up to Maine to testify.
Yeah, we
when
may.
they bring it up again.
Oh, that's. I
But
mean,
we just had a great team that stayed on
Right,
point. We didn't
yeah.
allow them to take the conversation somewhere else. And then I think that's what, I mean, it was a bipartisan
well, you kept
support
it
to
out of
get
the
it through.
religion thing because
Yes.
it's a
It's not-
cultural.
It is. It's
Right.
cultural.
You
It's
know,
not
even
religion.
though there is one main religion that really does a lot of it.
Well, they're in Africa,
You know
there are
what I mean?
Christians
Yeah.
that do it. I mean, it really is, it is cultural.
Right. I mean, one of the bills I was mad that we couldn't get passed, and I understand why. I co-sponsored Sharia law to make that illegal. But what I didn't think at the time was New Hampshire's not a home rule state. So cities and towns or anyone cannot put these laws in or anything without the authorization from the legislator.
Right.
So that bill died, and because it's happening in other states where they're
Right.
bringing up the Sharia
Where they
law.
call it honor killings.
Yeah,
where
honor
like-
killing, that's right, and they're bringing them in front of this Sharia court, in Detroit, in Michigan,
And Florida.
And
It
again, it's
can
usually
happen
women.
too.
It's the
Yeah.
women that get
It's,
stabbed.
it's women.
It's always
because,
the woman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like if she gets raped, then she's
Right.
considered unclean, and her family will kill her.
and you need
Well,
three
there was a
witnesses.
father that ran over his daughter with a car to kill her
Right,
because
yes.
she wouldn't marry who he wanted her to. So,
yeah.
I mean, you don't think of
if
things
they-
happening
Yeah,
in the United
we
States.
we can't have that here.
Now
belongs in
I'm
the
sitting
other
here with
country.
two women, okay, they do
You're
a
a
great
lucky
job.
man.
I'm a lucky man. I'm like a thorn between two roses. But anyways, can you tell me? I mean, I don't get it. Why all these groups of women do not fight for women that are being treated as second-class citizens? They couldn't
Because
drive.
those other
They
women
can't-
only care about abortion.
You know what I mean? They're being
Really?
beaten. They're being raped, and
I will tell you why. My thought on it, why? One thing is what Janine just said. Their only focus is abortion. And people like us who are pro-life and believe in the lives of babies, we're traitors to them. Like, they really come at us all the time.
Oh yeah, they do.
But if you go after exactly what you're talking about, that does go back to these cultures that are coming here where women are subservient to men, and they don't want to stand up against those cultures because they don't have the strength to stand up and say, you men in this culture can't treat women like that.
Right.
Because they will look like they're racist because
Yeah.
they're the ones always saying
Right.
that everybody else is racist,
And I
they
see the
won't stand
women
up
walking
against
behind
these.
the man, and
Yep.
and then one I seen somebody
Well, if you see that
yelling.
here, it's because they just walk so fast. We can't keep up.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's a shame.
Although, if you walk with Janine, we're all behind her because
Right.
she walks so
Yeah,
fast.
she does. Yeah.
Poor
I'm just
My
Christine.
saying.
little legs. Oh, I know. Representative Christie, we toured the monuments together in D.C. and
Was
all the
Tiffany
poor
with
men.
you?
Yes,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
Tiffany and her sister, and
yeah.
we were trying to get to the wall, and we were like, well, we'll wait for you. We'll wait for you.
And Tiffany's leg is probably as long as your two together.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's like,
and
she's the
her
tallest
sister-
rep, and I'm the shortest, and that's
Yeah.
who I traveled with. But
And
we
her sister
had a
too
good time.
is tall. I was kind
they're
of surprised.
Very nice young
Yeah.
But
ladies.
you know, if we have some time, one thing we didn't get to see with you was sports theater. So Tiffany and I and her sister, we got to see where Lincoln was shot. We got to see
Wow,
where
that
they
was
took him.
You were kind enough to send me pictures of it because I couldn't
Right,
get
and
there.
Yeah.
the pillow and the gun, and then this book I got at the Fells in New Hampshire, Lake Sunapee. John Hayes was Lincoln's secretary, the young one. He had two. So he was there, and in this book, it is the best accounting of the Lincoln assassination that I've ever read.
Wow.
It makes Bill O'Reilly's book read like Cliff Notes.
Wow.
So that's why I brought this one on the show today, because we were there when we saw it, and it's really spooky. I didn't tell you.
For the people watching,
Don't you
when
want
they
to
watch this show.
Spooky story. We were in
Oh, okay.
Ford.
I want you to explain where we were and what we
Right.
were doing, because you're
Right.
telling the story.
In Ford's Theater. You know how when you look at somebody and then you look over there and you see a shadow? Well, I was listening to the ranger, and I kept looking over in the box where Lincoln was here, and then Mary Todd Lincoln, and then every time I looked over there, I'd look at different spots, but only in the seat where Mary Todd Lincoln was sitting, I kept seeing this shape, like her shape and the shadow in it, and it was like really bizarre.
Wow.
And it wasn't. I wasn't scared or anything. It was just interesting.
Wow.
So I wanted to share that to you.
The trip, was
Yeah.
the New Hampshire legislative trip. We were invited by the White House. and it was-
Unexpectedly.
And we got to see the White
unexpectedly,
House, which
and
was
it
really
It was
cool.
nonpartisan, and I think
Yep.
that was my 4th or 5th invite there. And
Yeah, it was
that's
old
why-
hat to Al.
Yeah,
He's
so-
been there. Oh,
the
yeah.
only
Yeah, so-
Democrat that I saw there was Senator
No,
Waters.
there was
Linda
Linda
Massimilla was
Massimilla,
there,
and then
yeah,
there was
a
a
few
few other
others,
women
yeah.
too, because I talked to them and asked them if they were going to get a
But
chance to see the
it
site.
was
good.
nice to see that they invited, it was nonpartisan.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to, well, you were talking with Ben Carson, right?
Oh yeah, I was in the front
Yeah.
row, and he
And
said he
who wa-
recognized
Who
a lot
was
of
it, like the Three Stooges, these three, your partner in
Lisa
crime?
Freeman went
that
over
said
now
that
for
I
a
had
hug.
to get
Yeah,
a
she got a
hug.
hug, yeah.
I had to get a
Representative
hug.
Lisa Freeman.
We love her, Lisa, Victoria, and I. We just went out.
For those who don't know, Representative Lisa Freeman is on the school board in Manchester, a hard-charging conservative Republican, does a great job.
Yeah.
And she's my paisan, I call her all
Oh,
the time.
I'm with you. I'm
Yep,
I'm
you're
Italian too. I
Paisan
just
too.
wasn't raised Italian. I
Yep,
just
that's right.
didn't find out about it until I was
I'm
20.
odd man out. I'm Polish and Irish.
So what else
But
have
you
you been
still
involved in?
accept me.
Yeah.
Yes, we
we
love
won't hold that against you, but what else you been involved in?
Oh, she was a dancer. She was on Romper Room. Actress.
Oh, yeah. Well, I seen the pictures of you young. I said, my God. You know?
hot.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bite my tongue. Okay, go ahead.
So my kids, kind of carry that on. That's why I had the drama club, because I love acting and I wanted to bring that up. And we use that on the house floor all the time, don't we? The public speaking and the acting, getting people
You're
to
very
understand
good
our
at public
bills.
speaking.
And so my kids are actors too, so we do a lot of fun things together. So I pull them into political things. They pull me back into the acting stuff. And
Yeah.
my husband works 2 jobs so that I can do what I do and be with my kids all the time.
Oh, that's
So-
awesome.
Well, see,
Well,
I can write because I used to be a freelance writer, but when it comes to speaking, I really have a hard time.
yeah, see, me,
do a
I can
great
speak on a
job.
moment's notice on
We know.
any issue. You know that, right? Yeah. And,
Very
well, you know
spontaneous.
what it is? I read a lot, and I'm on
Oh,
the
me too.
internet, and
I
I
read a lot.
trust but verify. And I don't know how
And
many
I
times.
bought you that bookmark at the Reagan Museum.
That's right,
the
yes.
Reagan Library.
But
just
how
for
many
Al.
times when I listen to somebody speak at the well, and I know they're lying and not telling others, stretching the truth. That's why I go down there and I hit them up with a question. You know what I mean? To say, because our leadership and others just sit there. They don't question. They don't get up and fight for what we should be fighting for. And that's why I get aggravated. You know what I mean? And I stand all the time, but I listen, what's being said.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. But
I think
we have a
it's-
great team,
Yeah,
I think.
and but it's really important, I think. And seeing the bills that came forward last year, it is so important that we maintain the majority in the House and in the Senate in the corner office, because the first thing that the other side of the aisle is coming after is our Second
The
Amendment
Democrats.
rights.
Yep, the guns.
That's the other
We
side.
had to swat away so many of those ridiculous bills last year.
Right.
They tried to sneak in
Carbon
everywhere.
tax,
And
we just
people
talked
probably
about.
don't even know because
right.
they were hidden in other things, right? So they didn't get a lot of press. But seriously, they're coming after our Second Amendment rights. They're coming after our First Amendment rights.
I still
They're coming
can't
after your
believe
wallet because they want to
we
raise
have
taxes for
38
everything.
seconds. The transgender bill, I'm sick over, but
I'm still
but
really
anyway,
upset about that
How
myself.
do people get in touch with you? You're running for re-election.
I am running for re-election.
How they get-
I am on Facebook, Victoria Sullivan Public Figure. I keep it that way just in case I ever go to a different office. I can keep my page.
Yeah.
I am on Twitter, V Sullivan for New Hampshire, the number 4, NH. My home number is 232-4382. I can be reached there. And all my information is on the New Hampshire General Court website, my email or anything
and
else.
we'll have it up on this here so people
Yeah,
can
I'm pretty
see.
accessible.
here,
People
yeah.
reach out to me often. I love speaking with people.
Once again, this is Who's Looking Out for You, and we'll be back next week.
Who's
Thank
looking
you.
out for you? Yes.
Who's looking out for you?